Welcome to Media Melanie Talks TV. I'm Melanie, and today I'm back to talk about Dexter Original Sin on Paramount Plus with Showtime. This penultimate episode, episode 9, is titled Blood Drive. And what an episode this was. Yes, it took me a little while to come around to this series, the justification of why we even need an origin story. But let me tell you, this season of Original Sin has just given so much. Not only is it the origin story of our beloved Dexter, but also we are getting the Brian Moser origin story too. And that was something that I don't think any of us saw coming going into this season. And it raises another question for me. So listen, this might sound a little bit crazy and maybe it doesn't make sense because logically they will probably continue this Dexter and Brian story in season 2 of Original Sin. However, we still do not have renewal news for a season 2. Let's say it doesn't get renewed. Is it possible there is another plan at play? Or do we think they will fill in these gaps with further seasons of Original Sin? Because it kind of got me thinking. We know we're getting Dexter Resurrection come summer of 2025 here, but what if they've been keeping another Dexter spinoff under wraps besides the Trinity Killer one with John Lithgow, obviously? Now that we're getting all of this Brian Moser content, we know that he is killing, he is stalking his brother, Harry is on his path, and I'm also guessing that Brian does end up killing Harry, and it's not what we were led to believe in the original Dexter. But with 15 years in between this prequel and the original Dexter, what was Brian Moser doing that whole time? And if we're putting the pieces together, the next logical step in this franchise, which, let's face it, they love spinning off shows of, are we going to get Dexter, the Dark Brotherhood? Throwing out a name in case they don't have one, but I just suspect they've got something else coming at us to fill in this blank. There's only one episode left to wrap this story up. Let's say Brian does kill Harry. He doesn't start going after Dexter again until, again, 15 years later as the Ice Truck Killer in season 1. I think we're getting 15 years worth of Brian Moser training to be the Ice Truck Killer, continuing to stalk Dexter. So please, when Paramount Plus with Showtime does announce that they will be doing another Dexter and it involves Brian Moser and hey, maybe they'll pick my name and it will be called the Dark Brotherhood, come back to this video, leave me a little bit of love because I am convinced they're not just going to let Brian Moser scurry off in the serial killer sunset and leave us wondering what happened for that 15 years. But it would be interesting too, what story would they be telling? Because if Dexter and him don't have any interactions, are they just gonna skirt around each other for over a decade? Where Dexter still doesn't even know his brother is out there and is killing. Wild turn of events. Could there be enough meat on the Dexter franchise bone to justify the Brian Moser spinoff? Because, I mean, they're already doing it with the Trinity Killer and Dexter proper has had multiple spinoffs. I just don't think it's out of the realm of possibility. And speaking of all of the wild things in this episode, we knew we were going to get that shipping container scene, but the buildup with the music and that dramatic tension, opening the shipping container doors for that blood to just flow out of there like that, and seeing Laura Moser's dismembered body parts there with the 2 kids. Are you even kidding me? It hit harder than I expected to, and we all knew it was coming. Testament to the strength of this season. Circling back to the beginning of this episode, we have Brian Moser, B-I-N-G-O. He is playing some bingo. Brian is clearly going after anybody that was tied into the death of his mom, including stalking Dexter. I'm assuming he's also stalking Harry. But here, we had him going after the adoption agent who was in charge of making sure the brothers stayed together and ultimately ripping the brothers apart. Could you blame Harry and Doris for not wanting Brian there? The interesting part about Brian trying to suffocate baby Deb with a pillow is it's actually the second time that Brian went after Deb in this series. I mean, talk about a full circle moment from the age of 6 and then to his tenure as the Ice Truck Killer. He tried really, really hard to get Deb, which makes me believe that he 100% does kill Harry, and that is what we are going to see in the finale. Harry is also on Brian's trail. He picked up that file in the last episode. LaGuardia, of course, is onto him and goes to double check his story and records and successfully says, okay, he must be telling the truth. Brian Moser, one son. Fine. It's not until years and years later when LaGuardia actually does start digging more into Dexter's past. But for now, it seems like she's going to just let it go, and Harry's going to keep looking into Brian, may end up confronting him, or Brian ends up confronting Harry, and that is what is going to lead to this big finale for Dexter Original Sin Season 1. Harry dead at the hands of Brian Moser. I actually couldn't believe that Harry and Doris did take both boys. That was something new that we didn't realize. We always assumed Harry just picked Dexter because they had more of a connection. And yeah, there did seem to be some red flags with Brian. I was shocked Harry's wife was okay with that, given that she knew these were the boys from the woman Harry was having an affair with, who was since dismembered. In my mind, first of all, I'm surprised she did it because I'm thinking, okay, are the cartel going to come after these boys at some point someday? And then to agree to just keep both of them after having a baby, that shows that Dexter's mom has probably the biggest heart of the entire family. I don't know if I would have done the same thing in that situation. And then ultimately, yes, they did have to give Brian back anyway because nobody wants a little kid who is going to be suffocating a baby. And even before all of the stuff happened with his mom and he witnessed his murder, there was the whole lizard situation, and there were definitely some signs that things weren't right with Brian anyway. And this obviously put him over the top and really crossed a line for him into the life that he would become as a serial killer like his brother. But instead of being kind of an anti-hero, vigilante justice type of killer, Brian's just a straight up killer. At least Dexter has some standards, and he had Harry there to develop them. Would it have been different if both boys did stay with Harry? Would Harry have helped them both develop some sort of code? I guess we'll never know. So Dexter in this episode is developing some serious serial killer blue balls, as he mentions, as he is mentally just stalking Aaron. Dexter eventually gets Aaron on his table. It was a fun precursor watching him draw the blood from Aaron during that blood drive, and also very ironic that Tanya gave him the responsibility of drawing blood, given who we know Dexter is. He did not take it lightly and jabbed that thing right into Aaron Spencer's arm, full knowing this whole time he is a child killer, Dexter's first child killer, in fact, and that he was going to have him on his table in no time, which he did at the family arcade. For that split second when Aaron was freeing himself from that table after Dexter did a little bit of finger cutting, I'm like, oh no, Dexter, you are making another mistake. What are you doing? But Dexter actually had a plan this time and is going to follow Aaron Spencer wherever he's going. Now, we would assume he's going to wherever Nikki is being held captive. But what about that mention of Victor? Dexter left that note on Aaron Spencer's door, which Aaron said something like effing Victor. Okay, who's Victor? There is a Victor in a future season of Dexter. I don't think they're related. I think Victor could either be the guy who Aaron had plant the jersey at the cartel house, or his accomplice, and perhaps the person who is there watching Nikki wherever he is being held captive. Dexter will be hot on his trail either way, and I would imagine eventually we'll have Aaron back on his table once Nikki returns to safety. I'm still waiting for something to happen with Tanya, still thinking, okay, could Tanya be involved with this somehow? She's still not done anything in 9 episodes of the show, and might I remind you, it is Sarah Michelle Gellar, Buffy the Vampire Slayer, we are talking about. Why did she get out of bed for this role? It cannot be to persuade Deb to become a police officer. That is just not substantial enough to justify having this incredibly talented actress in the show. And so far, that seems like really one of the only plot points that have actually moved the story forward potentially. And we know Deb is going to become a cop. It's still to be determined if she will end up taking advantage of the volleyball scholarship at FSU, if they still award it to her, or if she just turns it down in general in order to become a cop. Now, have we seen the last of Gio? Of course, Deb said she broke up with him. She can't promise Harry she won't be dating older guys again because the heart wants what it wants. But could Victor even be related somehow to Gio? Could he be Gio's dad? And there is more of a circle to close with all of this. Could there be that extra layer of connection? Because otherwise it does seem like Gio's storyline was kind of a throwaway if it was just for Deb to be dating a dangerous older guy. I think something else will come into play with Gio, whether it has to do with Victor or whatever, because still Deb just has not had a lot of substance for her character this season, and Molly Brown's been great. She is bringing it. She is giving Deb Morgan through and through. But that's a lot for one episode to give Deb enough to really make her shine or make her important this season, unless they're just kind of keeping her as the secondary character because, yeah, she's a teenager, and they're just really typecasting and stereotyping her into the role of an annoying teenager while everything else is going on, and she really develops into the Deb that she is in the future Dexter. Back to Tanya for one quick second, though. I thought the comment she made about being fun-sized and not having a dick was hilarious when her and Deb were talking about being in sports. And then Tanya says something like, yeah, but the real shit is catching the bad guys. I do think that moment is very telling for Deb. But again, is that like the main thing we get out of Deb's character and Tanya's character this season? I am still left wanting more for both of these women. So look, a lot happened in this penultimate episode. For me, that shipping container scene, finding out that Harry and Doris did take both boys in, the fact that Harry is on Brian's trail, and heading into this finale, what do we think is going to happen? How are they going to wrap this up in one episode? Is Dexter just going to seamlessly follow Aaron? Nikki gets saved. Dexter takes Aaron Spencer out, calls it a day. What's up with the Brian and Harry situation? And will our girl Tanya finally get the scene stealing that she 100% deserves? I'd love to know what you think about this season of Dexter Original Sin. So go ahead, like this video, drop it in the comments and let me know if there is a second season of Dexter Original Sin. Will you watch it? I've just got to say, the Dexterverse has done such a great job expanding this universe, building worlds in different times, putting Brian Moser into the mix of this origin story, which again is something that none of us saw coming very early on in the season. As I mentioned, Matt and Jess over at Matt and Jess TV noticed what looked like Brian Moser at that bar scene, and they were so spot on. We did then get that ice truck driving by and beeping at Dexter at one point. And now we see Brian in the background of all those pictures and Harry investigating him. So lots to wrap up in this finale. Will they be able to do it? Will we end on a cliffhanger? And speaking to my question earlier, what is going to happen in the next 15 years between Brian and Dexter? We know they don't have any contact, but could I be onto something with a very secret Dexter spinoff happening, something with the Dark Brotherhood that's going to get more into Brian Moser and maybe even connect some other dots leading us into the original Dexter season 1 where he is in fact the ice truck killer. And we've only got the one episode of Dexter left, so if you enjoy videos like this where I talk about dark TV shows, please do hit that subscribe button. I am covering Severance on Apple TV Plus, which is an absolute mind F, along with Paradise on Hulu, which is presenting a really great twisty mystery. It stars Sterling K. Brown from This Is Us, love him. I've been covering The Hunting Party on NBC. I may or may not continue with that one, but if you like serial killers, then that show might be one you should add to your watch list. And School Spirits on Paramount Plus. Hey, you're already here, you're already watching, you've already got Paramount Plus. If you like supernatural, if you like teen dramas with a really good mystery, School Spirits is bringing it with its season 2, so do not miss my coverage of that. I really appreciate you watching, and I'll be back again soon. Media Melanie, clicking off.